Cześć, witam Państwa na tej konferencji. Ja przygotowałem raport na temat cyberataki jako wyzwanie dla przyszłości wydobywania surowców kosmicznych, które przedstawię Wam w języku angielskim. Plan of my presentation is the worldwide recognition of the cyber threats for the sustainable space activity. The second one is cyber threats for space mining. And the third one is the holistic approach for the cyber security in the space mining activity. What is the worldwide recognition of cyber threats? We have the academic dimension. For instance, the United Nations of the disarmed. Can we switch on the third slide, please? The worldwide. Excuse me. We can switch on the second and the next, please. The third slide. Okay, thank you. The United Nations Institute of for Disarmed Research states that emergence of electronic and cyber counter space capability is enabling a wider range of actors, including states and non-state actors, to target and disrupt of space objects, including both military and civilian. The Chatham House said that space-based systems are vulnerable to cyber acts and will become more and more appetizing targets for adversaries. And also Center for Strategic and International Studies state that there are several institution points of space-based assets, and this can result in the data and traffic monitoring, in certain falls of corrupt data, and in the system, or even permanent loss of the space object. The next slide, please. Also, we have the worldwide recognition of cyber threats by some international organization. For instance, E2 in the global space strategies sets 5 pillars. The legal, technical, organization, and capacity building, and these pillars are the criteria of assessment of cybersecurity. Also, the NATO on the London Declaration state that space is an operational domain, and also it's in this document reflected that increasing tool to respond to cyber attacks and strengthen its ability to prepare for defend against hybrid tactics and seek to undermine security and society. Also, we know that in 2008 established NATO Cooperative Cyber Defense Center, and in this year established the NATO Space Center. Okay. Also, next slide, please. We have the document of Council of European Union. This document named the Orientation on the European Contribution in Establishing Principles for the Global Space Economy. It states that cyber safety and resilience is the growing importance for the preserving the operability and the reliability of European operation space system. Also, this year was very fruitful for the cybersecurity, because we know that U.S. adopted the Memorandum on Space Policy Directive, the cybersecurity principles. It is essential to protect space system from cyber incidents. Please, next slide. What we can do with this information in the aspect of the space mining. we have some programs concerning the space mining, for example, the moon. It's within the program of Artemis. There are the project LunaNet, which use the internet through disruption-tolerant networking. There are the plans that robotic landers, rovers, and astronauts on the moon will have network access and transmit data to the Earth, and the astronaut will be able to receive real-time alerts generated from space weather and another harm issues. Also, the European Union elaborated the project Moonlight, which also addressed to enable to set up observatories to help transmit the data between the Earth and the Moon, it's from the one side, and from the another side, please next slide. We have China's Chinese project, and the China conclude the two agreements between with the Russia Federation, and this agreement state the establishment of a joint center of data about moon exploration, and also coordination of the Russian mission lunar resource and the Chinese mission Chang'e 7. Could we switch on next slide? What about the cyber threats for these types of activity? There are a lot of kinds of cyber attacks. For instance, in the sources we can find such type as jamming or dazzling, spoofing, or denial of service. For instance, in 2017, U.S. Maritime Administration reported that the GPS system of at least 20 ships were spoofed, leading the ships on 32 kilometers inland to in the Black Sea, away from the original destination. The incident raised the assumption among experts that Russia had been experimenting with a new GPS spoofing technique as part of its electronic warfare capabilities. So, what is the consequences of cyber attack? Please, next slide. We have such consequences. Please switch on next slide. Oh, thank you. We have such consequences. They are blind and deaf space mining infrastructure, loss of economic attractiveness of mining activities for private actors, adverse change of lunar probability, and also loss of confidence between allied states, and as consequence intention of the political tension. So now mission to the moon is still very highly innovative and economically costly. So the long distance interfere to ability of troubleshooting. Such kinds of trips could lead to use even nuclear sources of power that require very careful usage. So the state of art of technology for supporting deep space activity now is too fragile for using such luxury as offensive actions, even if they are so latent as cyber attacks. What we can do? Please, next slide. We can use the holistic approach to cybersecurity of space mining activity. It has the four dimensions. They are diplomatic, legal, financial, and technical. And these dimensions could realize on the both approach is preventive and responsive. The cybersecurity of space mining activity should be based on the general level of space security and cyber security. From one point of view, cyber attacks is harmful interference posing the hazard long-term sustainability of space activity, including environmental risk, and it can aggravate the political tensions of spacefaring nation. From another point of view, cyber attacks restrain a new space economy, including space mining activity. So only holistic approach can match effectively with this problem. Please, next slide. When we find the diplomacy dimension, we can find two questions. The first one is elaborating of international framework and recognition of authority. In the scientific sources, we can find three ways. The first one is intergovernmental coordination. The second one is a new group of governmental experts under the auspice of COPUS to production several working papers. And the last one is establishing a new international organization with a mandate to investigate the cyber attack and including conducted in outer space. The second question is a notification about cyber attack. We can say that forewarned is forearmed. What we have in this to respond to this question, the Article 9 of the Outer Space Treaty states that states party which has reason to believe that activity experiment planned by another state party in outer space, including the moon and other celestial bodies, would cause potential harm interference with activities in the peaceful exploration use, may request consultation concerning the activity of experiment. Also, this requirements prescribed in a Hague building blocks for the development of international framework on space resource activity, and also within the Artemis Accords. But the cyber attacks are implemented without warning. So scientists suggest to oblige launching state to immediately inform the international community when one of their space objects is subject to unauthorized cyber activity and about related potential dangers. So if we cannot prevent the cyber attack, we can find the source of attack and mitigate their consequences cooperatively. The next slide, please. We have also the general international legal framework. It consists of a telling manual, which prescribes the jurisdiction of lack of states of registration concerning cyber infrastructure on outer space, and definition of cyber attack. Also, we have the requirements of Convention of International Liability, which prescribe the liability, but only for the physical damage. So damage directed caused by cyber attacks to a space object are not covered by the Liability Convention. But if a hacked space object caused the harm to a third-party space object, the last one have the right to present the claim for compensation. Also, the guidelines for long-term sustainability of outer space highlight that states and international intergovernmental organizations should ensure that their space activities are conducted in such manner as not to cause harmful interference. The next slide, please. Also, we had the Article 6 of Outer Space Treaty, which prescribe the international responsibility for national activity, including in the outer space, including moon and other celestial bodies. But there are suggestions to attest fault by an international or negligent act on the part of the state with the legal link to the space object that caused the damage. It is noteworthy that negligent reflected as the failure to use such care as a responsible, prudent, and careful person would be used under similar circumstances. So idea about absence of national legal authorization requirements contains cyber security measures as a reason to recognize in such states as a fault for damage emanated from cyber attack is prevail. We have such legal few best legal practices in this area. It's a memorandum on space policy and the executive order, both of the legal sources of US. The next slide, please. Also, we had the economic dimension. It consists of harsh export control, restrictive measures, and other restrictions. What's about export control? We have the European Union Cyber Defense Policy Framework. The U.S. Department of Defense set also the different level of requirements for different production and technologies. And restrictive measures is we can set about decision of Council of Europe about restrictive measures against cyber attack, and threatening to Union and its member state, and also U.S. Department of Treasury that prepared a list of sanctions related to significant malicious cyber-enabled activities. Space mining is the most collaborative sector within space economy. One of the most vulnerable aspect is backdoors. The hackers use these backdoors as a vulnerable target object for cyber attack. The risk also could come from the increasing use of faulty microelectronics and materials. So the harsh export control and the restrictive measures could help to match with this problem. Please, next slide. The next dimension is technical dimensions. There are a lot of technical regulation concerning cybersecurity, including cybersecurity in space. For instance, it's working group 17 on security of E2, collaborates also with the International Organization of Standardization. Also, we had a Council of Europe Security Act, which introduced a system of EU-wide certification scheme. Also, there are a consultative committee for space data system, and the National Institute of Standards and Technology also elaborates a cybersecurity framework. These standards cover technologies of quantum encryption, blockchain, disruption-tolerant networking. For instance, in January 2017, Chinese scientists officially began experiments using the world's first satellite with quantum communication. Also in January 2019, NASA announced that it started testing an open source blockchain platform in order to address potential issues of privacy and to prevent spoofing, those attacks and other attacks. Recently, in Artemis program announced the usage of disruption tolerance networking. But what's the problem we can face? The Section 5 of Artemis Accord require the development of interoperable and common exploration infrastructure and standards. But interoperability has double nature. It's enabled the transparency of all cyber activity, including unauthorized, but makes system more vulnerable if the attacker will be participant of the interoperable system. Nevertheless, now two poles of allies states in the sphere of space mining and cyber activity do not express an intention to make their standards inoperable. So, in conclusion, I could say that the future of is being created now. Next slide, please. The future is being created now, and their image depends also on the cyber security of space activity. Please, the last slide. The last. Okay. Dziękuję bardzo. Mam nadzieję, że zobaczymy się offline w przyszłym roku. Thank you.